Okay, this is question number 224. A seed mixture X, alright, so we have X is 40% ryegrass, 40% R, and 60% bluegrass, 60% blue. Then we have Y, and we're told it's 25% ryegrass and 75% some other third chemical starting with an F. So we have to combine X and Y to make some kind of mixture, and that's, we're told, 30%. Now the question is asking, what is the weight of X in this mixture? Well, that's basically X divided by X plus Y in this mixture, and we're asked, what is this? Alright, so what information do we have that's actually useful here? How do we know what to do? And the common thing in X, Y, and the mixture, these three items, is ryegrass. It's this guy, and this guy. So these guys combine together. So 0.4 X plus 0.25 Y, that's basically this guy and this guy, equals a 30% mixture of X and Y. So this is an equation that gets us the relationship between X and Y, and then once we do that, we can plug it in here. So 0.3 X plus 0.3 Y, combine the X's, you have 0.1 X equals 0.05 Y, right? Because 0.3 minus 0.25, that's 0.05, and then you get X equals, well, you just basically have a nickel divided by a dime, which is 1/2. So X equals Y over 2. Or you can say Y equals 2X. Now, always go back to the original question. The original question asks you, what is X over X plus Y? So that's basically X over X plus, and then you plug in Y in terms of X, so you have 2X here. That gets you X over 3X. The X's cancel out, and you get 1 over 3. So this 1 over 3 is the answer, and in the answer choices, that is answer choice B right here. So we got the answer here, but I also think it's important that you understand the intuition behind this question. So let's look at the intuition, right? So behind the intuition, we're told that with X you have 40%, and with Y you have 25%. And then some kind of combination gets you a mixture that has 30% ryegrass. Now, imagine if you had a 50-50 split, right? A 50-50 split between X and Y. Well, if you had a 50-50 split, well, if you had 100% X and 0% Y, then you would basically have a solution, a mixture that has 40%. If you had 100% Y and 0% X, you would have a mixture of 25%. We're told that the mixture is 30%, so it's got to be somewhere in between. The exact midpoint between these two guys, if you had a 50-50 split, would basically be the midpoint between 40 and 25, and if you find the difference, that's 15. Divide that by 2, that's 7.5. Add that 7.5 to the 25, and you get 32.5. So really, the midpoint here is 32.5%. Now, if this is the midpoint, if this is what you get with the 50-50 split, and you're told that you actually get something that's 30%, well, that 30% is closer to the Y. That means Y must have more weighting than X does. So Y must have something that's greater than 50%, and X must have something that's less than 50%. So how does this influence the answer choices? Well, you look at this and you ask yourself, well, how much weight does X have? Well, it's got to be less than 50%, so that means D is no good, because that's 50%, and E is no good. Also A, 10%. Well, if it's 10%, you would have to get really, really close to 25%, because if X had so little influence and 90% of it came from Y, then the mixture really should be like closer to 26, 27%. But since we're told it's 30%, 10 is probably a little bit too extreme. So if you look at the answer choices, really only B and C make sense. So really you can eliminate A, D, and E, and just based on intuition alone, you can guess between B and C. And of course we did the math in the first part, and the math gave us 1/3 as the final answer, and that's why we choose 1/3 B as the final answer. So as a recap, we basically saw a mixture problem right off the bat. We immediately saw mixture X and mixture Y. We split them into different percentages, and we noticed the percentage, the commonality between these two mixtures was the ryegrass, right? This is the ryegrass. The ryegrass, there was some kind of percentage here, and there was some kind of percentage here for Y. That gave us the mixture y, X plus Y, and that gave us a 30% mix. So we had to mix X and Y such that the combination gave us a 30% ryegrass in terms of weight. And the question asks us what percent of the total mixture comes from X. Well, we did the calculations here. We basically did the percentages multiplied by X. Percentage multiplied by X equals 0.3 times X plus Y. Solve for the relationship between X and Y. Plug it back into the division right here, and that basically is the equation that we're solving for. That ratio turns out to be 1/3, and that's why we chose answer choice B.